So those who say that the Ukrainians are fighting for nothing, the war is already settled, the outcome of the war is settled. The Poles realize as well that this is definitely not the case. The Poles, the Poles, they did beat the Red Army in 1920 in the Battle of Warsaw, despite Russia, or the Soviet Union at the time, being a country with a much larger population and a more numerous army. This is not this is not an argument that the Poles will listen to. They know that the Ukrainians, they certainly have actually very good chances of defending their own country.
If the supplies of modern weaponry keep them, because one of the issues there is that the weaponry which has been supplied has left those supplying it rather short. And as the NATO Secretary General pointed out, I think 2 weeks ago, we need to rapidly increase production of ammunition, both to be able to continue to support Ukraine, but also to replenish our own stocks, which are dangerously weak now in some cases. I mean, I read something shocking by somebody saying that if at the same rate of fire which is being on in Ukraine, Great Britain would run out of ammunition in about 3 days. I mean,
yes,
astounding. But this, of course, is the so-called peace dividend after 1989, when the Warsaw Pact was essentially no longer a threat, which politicians all over Europe have sort of paid out and paid out and paid out and paid out. I mean, the German army is in a terrible mess. Our own army is far too small and hollowed out with equipment. So really, the West as a whole. And of course, then we have the intervention now of President Xi of China on his mischief-making visit to Moscow.
It is quite likely that Russia is receiving a lot of aid when it comes to especially artillery shells, even bulletproof vests, helmets, various types of body armor, which comes to Russia from various sources. There have been vessels making journeys across the Caspian Sea from Iran with equipment, apart from just the famous Shahed drones, the suicide drones that Russia has been using. When it comes to Chinese military aid, it is likely that it is going through North Korea, as the Chinese, they know that they have the world's eyes on them, and they don't want to send any direct flights going from Beijing to Moscow of military transports. Here, the North Koreans are quite a convenient way of sending military aid. There were recent reports about not sending finished artillery shells, but rather sending the explosives and various fuels and other components that are needed in the production of munitions in North Korea, which is then later on transported to Russia through the direct border that is between North Korea and parts of eastern Russia. So there certainly is this effort on both sides that the Ukrainians, they do receive help from NATO plus, you could say, as some other countries are also involved. Morocco, for example, sent T-72 tanks and other types of military hardware as well. And then on the other side, George W. Bush would have probably called it the axis of evil. But certainly Iran, North Korea, and China are aiding Russia, even though it has to be said that China, since they want to keep it under the rug, so to say, they are certainly not sending as much aid as they could have. It will be very interesting to see what comes out of this trip that the Chinese president Xi Jinping he is in Moscow as we speak right now. It's his second or third day. I lost count now how long he has been in Moscow. But naturally, Putin will be asking for as much help as possible. The question is Xi Jinping determined enough, and does he believe that Russia's victory in this war is paramount for China as well? Is he willing to step out of the shadows, so to say, and start sending large quantities of military to Russia, or is he not? This is actually one of those factors that could be having a very huge impact on the war. Maybe not decisive, but certainly it would play an enormous role.
It would.
And as you mentioned, when it comes to artillery shell production, this is again something that the Poles remember.
Adam, sorry, I'm going to have to. The clock in the corner of the room is doing its usual blinking at me, so I'm going to have to ask you to pause there. But fear not, we'll pick it up next time. There we are. I've had to interrupt Adam almost in mid-sentence, but fear not. If you join us next time, as we hope you will, we'll pick up the story here on Poland Daily History. In the meantime, thank you for watching.